One thing I've been working on recently is my faith in God. I've lately been backsliding a lot compared to my previous moments with Him. I've come to realize this, so now is my best time for me to get myself back into His Word. So far, I've done pretty well, but I find a problem that I keep encountering. Perfectionism. Perfectionism is such a huge problem, not only for me, but for plenty of others. Mostly through art, music, and creation in general, we desire to make whatever we create to be flawless. But perfectionism can also apply to our faith. I believe that there can be two ways that perfectionism can be an issue in our faith. Trying to be perfect and believing that you are perfect. Let's start with trying to be perfect. As an artist, I tend to lean a lot into making my art near flawless. My line art needs to be a seamless stroke. My colors need to be picked correctly. My composition needs to be impressive. The thing about doing this is that it takes a lot longer to produce the art, and in the end, it doesn't really look unique to myself. Trying to make something perfect can be tiring to our being. The idea can also be applied to our lives, especially to me. Whenever I tried to get right with God, the first thing I did was trying to avoid anything that could have even remotely caused me to be tempted. I think living like this was very limiting to my own identity. Whenever we try to be perfect for God, we can assume what perfectionism is, and we try to live without our own authenticity or character. We can give up on living like how we want to, and it misses every opportunity where we can win in God's favor. Being quote-unquote perfect doesn't mean not trying. It means trying to pursue what is morally right when the time comes. But how come in Matthew 5:4-8, God calls us to be perfect, as He Himself is? It might sound like I'm not trying to say that you should get better, but I'm not implying that. Just as an artist can get better at making their own artworks, so can we get better and walk with God. Trying to achieve such a hard goal will eventually wear us out if we try alone. Certainly we ourselves can't be perfect, but God can make us better in everything He gives us. It is through God where He can heal us, and it's what He calls us to do. We can never achieve the goal of perfection that God desires, so that's why He sent His Son to solve the problem. It's not through perfecting our own actions that save ourselves, for works cannot save us, but it's through our actions that help strengthen our faith in God. Faith without works is dead. So in a way, trying to become this vision of perfection that we think of is entirely meaningless and impossible. Yet since God needs us to be flawless for Him, and we can't live good enough for that, He solved the problem Himself by dying on the cross. And it is through salvation that we fulfill the desire of perfection within God. Secondly, there's believing that you are perfect. It may not be thinking that you're 100% sinless, but most of the time it's thinking that you're better than you actually are. Imagining that we are flawless can give a false assumption that we shouldn't try to be any better, which in many ways lets our flaws go undetected from being improved on. Thinking we are good when we aren't can miss the chance of becoming better. This is why God calls us to be honest with Him. Through acknowledging our shortcomings, we can take the first step into exterminating them. So the purpose of being with God is finding humility in ourselves, so that we prove the idea that His infinite power is far better than any action we do ourselves. The thing is, we aren't any better off than each other, let alone God. We all sin. The purpose of the gospel is that we aren't good enough to save ourselves. Yes, Jesus calls us to be perfect, but the point of His death is that we can't be perfect because we aren't God. In a way, He's calling us to imitate His path, and it should not be done with merely our own strength, but with God's mighty power. So let's review what's been told. God calls us to be perfect. We obviously fall short constantly, and we can't achieve such a high standard. We have to trust in God that He can develop us to be better than who we are. Additionally, it's through salvation that we should try to be better, and if we ever fall, we aren't condemned. Secondly, God also calls us to come as we are when we are with Him. Being honest with God shows that we acknowledge our faults, in which He can not only forgive them, but also help us overcome them because they have been identified through truth. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's one of my first YouTube videos about Christianity, and I hope to make many more of them in the future. This video is heavily inspired by the article on desiringgod.org about being perfect, and I highly recommend reading through it if I didn't give enough detail on perfectionism and faith. Link to the article is in the description. God bless you all.